Hello art lovers, welcome back to my studio. I hope you're all doing well. In today's video we are going to work on the completion of a project that I started back in October. It's kind of my first woodworking, wood cutting project, and we're going to show you today the final painting and assembly of all of that work from the last video. So this is kind of where I am now. I'm working on the last flower in this setup, and this is kind of what I've been doing this month. It's been filled with a lot of flower making and bud making and seed pod making, and I really just I really enjoyed doing these parts. I don't know, it was just kind of very chill and relaxing to paint flowers. I created like a little bouquet that you'll see when it's all put together, but yeah, that's what we're working on in this video, and I hope you all enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving. Here's the finished product again. If you enjoy what you see here, come watch along and see how it was done. See you guys real soon. Bye. Okay, so I started this process off with painting a few samples and then the flower buds and seed pods. And if you'd like to kind of get a look at how that went, go ahead and check out my TikTok and Instagram just to see the process of those pieces. After that, I jumped into rendering the larger, more detailed flowers. But while I was painting the buds, I kind of used a slightly different method for each to see kind of what I wanted to go with for those bigger flowers. And I basically decided that I wanted to do a wash of white over all of the like poplar wood because it has such strong yellow undertones. I wanted to do lighter layers of ink, but those lighter layers kept showing up like kind of green in the undertone, so putting down a white layer to start would kind of prevent that green that was popping up. So you'll notice on the side there I've got two containers, one with water and one with alcohol. The water is really just to clean my brush off periodically, but the alcohol I'm using to dilute the inks a little bit. I don't want to take the chance of using too much water, especially on these thin wood pieces, because I don't want them to warp. I need them to stay straight. So I'm using the alcohol in place of water to do the dilution and help the ink be a little bit more transparent. Like I said, I want to kind of stamp down the yellow undertone of this wood, but I don't want the white to come off super opaque. So I just want to dilute it a little bit without having to worry about whether or not the water would warp the wood. And these little cups are, they're like sauce cups that I got from Dollar Tree. They come with little caps so that I can close them up and preserve the color. Hi, baby. What's up?
Huh?
What are you doing?
What is white?
What is white? Mommy's doing the base for the flowers in the white.
White?
Yeah.
This is a white paint.
It is a white paint, you're right.
He pushed the song and then ran away. Oh, Mahrya, want to go for a walk? Outside?
Oh, that's my leg.
Come on, let's put some clothes on. Let's take these pants, change them, and we're going to go outside, okay? Put some socks on.
I found that doing this with acrylic kind of helps to almost seal the wood a little bit too, because of the nature of acrylic. It's once it gets into the wood and dries, the way the acrylic dries down, almost like a plastic, it seals things up and then makes the other layers easier to control.
Oh. Oh.
B-I-N-G-O,
One shoe,
B-I-N-G-O,
two shoes.
B-I-N-G-O. Good job. So to kind of clarify, without bingo, I know that I could just paint this whole thing white with a primer and be done with it, but I like to use that white layer to kind of establish my highlights and shadows, and the brightest white parts would be the lighter parts of the flower, and the parts that are darker are going to end up a darker shade of blue anyway, so you won't see as much of that green undertone. And I think it's just really important to establish those bits of highlight and shadow, especially when you're going for a more realistic representation. And with the poppy flower petals being so thin and transparent and kind of veiny, I really wanted to show that light coming through. It also took me a while to kind of decide what parts of the footage is worth showing you. I had like, I don't know, hours and hours of footage, and I recorded a lot of this and I left out a lot of it too, just because I felt like the repetition of it would probably get boring after a while. So I had to kind of pick and choose which parts were worth you seeing and which parts I could probably leave out and let your mind fill in the gaps. I ultimately decided that this flower would probably give you enough information that you could see what it took to create the others. Next up, I started work on the hair, and I did the same thing where I went in with the white to kind of neutralize some of these darker tones. Because I had to cut this large section of hair from a few different pieces of wood, they weren't quite balanced, so I went in and added general shading and highlights before throwing in any details. Another thing that I noticed with painting the hair, I used the white ink and the Payne's gray ink to mix different values and tones. And it would go on one color and dry a totally different color, which is something I usually notice more when I'm using gouache. But it was just interesting to see, like, sometimes it would go on dark and end up much lighter, and sometimes it would go on lighter and end up much darker, and then that would also change depending on where I placed the color. So it was a whole lot of back and forth that took forever to complete. Okay, my lovelies, I am finally done with the hair, and it is looking gorgeous, if I do say so myself. I've already put a few coats of satin varnish on the hair. I've just got the face kind of in place right now so you can get an idea of what she's gonna look like. But I'm gonna work on this piece next. Okay, so colors of the face that I'm going with are the Payne's Gray, kind of for the shadow areas. This is also what I used in the hair, but we're doing Payne's Gray in the shadow. This is Magenta. Yeah, Rowney's Magenta, which is going to kind of bring life and kind of warmth to the face. Yellow Ocher is going to help with like the highlights and brightness, and then we're going to do a wash of the earth red for skin tone. Okay, can you see that earth red for the skin tone? So yeah, I'm going to keep everything relatively light and translucent. I don't want it to have as opaque of a finish as the hair. I really want to try and retain a lot of the wood grain for this part. Yeah. Okay, so it's right around here where I start to wonder if I've gone too dark, and I actually really like the way that it looks when it's dry. That's usually the right mindset to have when you're like working on paper, because you're going to see it more dry than you will wet. But when it comes to wood and varnish, the finished product looks more like it does when it's wet. So I realized that I think I was just being a little bit more timid than I should have been. It all ends up being fine, but it gave me a little bit of pause to see the full face wet that way, and I was like, crap, did I go much darker than I intended to? please. Now is when we get to the face paint and makeup portion of the video. Probably one of my favorite steps for obvious reasons. I don't know, there's something about adding all of these beautiful marks. I used this golden, I think it's called interference paint, and there's one that's more of a like blue undertone and one that's more of a pinky, so kind of to match thematic colors of the painting. And I don't know, there's something about good face paint that just gives a character like power. Like, I don't know, man, I love it. It's hard to explain it, but I love adding these little details and markings on the face. Lastly, I went in with a bit of gold jewelry because every woman deserves a bit of jewelry. So gold nose ring, you'll see a gold necklace pop in there, and a bit of moon goddess symbolism on the bridge of her nose. Okay, and this is where we kind of reach the end of the design phase. We are also pretty close to the end of this video, so if you've gotten this far, go ahead and place a little moon emoji in the comments below and let me know what was your favorite part of the video. And if you're an artist, I'd love to hear about what you're working on too.
Let's get started. Oh, that's real good. Oh, that's real good.
Ain't nobody stopping me. Ain't nobody stopping me.
Oh wait, did I say assembly? I meant I'm going to keep painting because I completely forgot to paint the background.
Nobody stopping me. Stopping me.
You've got to get a hold of yourself.
Come and check. Ain't nobody
Okay, so I spent kind of a lot of time trying to figure out how to recreate the smoke effect that I had in the illustration, and I decided that I would just use a bit of like chiffon ribbon and use wires to kind of prop it up. And then somewhere in the end stages of this, I decided, no, instead I want to use real smoke. So we're going to try to fashion an incense holder to sit behind her face. We'll drill a hole into her mouth, and it just became this uber complicated thing that I was so sure was going to work. And of course it did not, because I did not spend enough time considering all the things that needed to be considered. All of this to say, sometimes things don't go according to plan, but that's okay. I'm still going to go with kind of the original plan of using the ribbon, and it still does kind of work effectively as an incense holder. So if whoever decides to take this piece home wants to use it that way as well, it does work. The smoke just doesn't come out of her mouth. last but absolutely not least, I just want to say thank you all so much for watching. I hope you had a very Merry Christmas, and I will see you all again sometime next year. Bye!